Hi everyone, welcome back to the React Native and Supabase tutorial. In the last video, we went over displaying our to-do items. I've now got my Supabase DB back up and running, so I can get rid of this collections array here. And I can connect to my database now. So I'll just enable my set items. So remember, this is pulling from our database, and then I can just get rid of this console log here as well. And then just replace the collections with an empty array. And there we go. So my data is being pulled now from my Supabase database. So in today's video, we'll continue from where we left off in the last video and build out our model to add new items to our list. So if you can remember, here's my design here. We'll build out this model. And then when we click add item, this will add a new item to our database and Supabase, and then also update our to-do list here. So to get started, let's first create a new component under our components folder. We'll call it modal component.js. Then we'll import React. We'll also import view modal style sheet as well as text from React Native. And then let's create our component here. We'll call it modal component. And then we'll pass some props to this later on. So let's add props there, and then return will be modal. And then some of the properties that we need to pass here will be animation type, which will be fade. And then also visible, we'll set that to true. And transparent as well, set to true. And then we'll go ahead and export this. And then in our app.js, let's go ahead and import this. There we go. And then we'll create a new state here. We'll call it show modal. And this will be a Boolean value set to false for now. And then at the bottom of our content, our safe area, we'll just display our model depending on whether show model is set to true or false. So if show model is true, then we'll display our model component. If not, we'll just hide it. So what we're going to do is when we click this add button, we're going to set our show model to true, which should then display our model component. So here on our touchable opacity where we created our button, let's add an on press. And then this will set our show model to true. Okay, so we have our model being displayed. As you can see, I can't click on anything. Basically, our model is showing, but then since it's transparent, we can't really see anything. So in our model file here, let's add a touchable opacity. So our touchable opacity will be our main view in this component. I'll go over why in a sec. So let's first do that, and then we'll create a style. We'll call it model backdrop. And then for our modal backdrop or overlay, we'll give it a flex of 1. And then the opacity will be 60%. Left out the B there. Can't find variable style sheet. Styles. There we go. Okay, so there's our overlay, and then so the reason why I have this as a touchable opacity is that when we click anywhere on our touchable opacity, we want to disable this or hide this. So now, as you can see, when I click on my touchable opacity, there's a fade there, and we don't want that. So to fix that, what we're going to do is add a property here on our touchable opacity called active opacity, which will be set to 1, and that should get rid of that. So that's fine. And then let's add a property here called hide modal, which will basically set our show modal to false. Cool. And what we can do is on press, we can just call props dot hide modal. So now when I click on my touchable opacity, that is hidden. And then the next thing we need to do is create this view that we have here. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll call this new item form. Then we'll give this a width of, let's say, 90%. Our height, we'll get that from Adobe XD, which will be about 230. And for our border radius, let's see, 20 pixels or 21, but we'll go for 20. And then let's give it a background color. Cool. And then for our modal backdrop, we'll just align items center. And then also justify content center as well. Okay, let's see what we did wrong here. Okay, I see my width is misspelled, so it's supposed to be width 90%. Cool, there we have it. And then let's add our heading. So it'll be text, add to do item. Then let's just give this a style as well. Then font weight will be bold. And for our font size, we'll make it 15. And then we'll apply the same justify and align items to pop up there. So that's fine. And then we'll need text input as well. So we'll just go React Native, text input. Can go and import that in the meantime. And then I'll create my input style. We'll give it a width of 90%. Height will be 71, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that's correct. And then give it a border. And border width as well of 1. Okay, let's apply the style there. Styles dot input. Cool. And let's just give this a margin bottom of about 10. And apply border radius to our text input of 4. And let's add a placeholder to our text input, which will be, say, enter new item. So let's just give that a padding as well, padding left of 10. Okay, that's looking fine. And we'll need a new state here to store our value. So we'll assign a value, which will be our text state, and then on change text, we'll then assign the new text that the user enters. So set text, there we go. Then what we need next is our add item button. So this will be another touchable opacity. And then we'll have a text element inside that says add item. And then the style for our text, our touchable opacity will be, just call it button. So let's first give our button a margin top of 10, and then a width of about same width as our input. Our height will be roughly 38 or 40. We'll just use 38. Border radius, and then background color will be this green of ours. Cool. Then we just need align items and justify content. There we go. And then let's just change the color of our text there. There we go. Okay. And let's see if we have it exactly as we got it here in our design. Maybe let's add a few more. Maybe let's increase the height of our input box a bit. At the moment we have it at 71. Let's make it 80. See how that comes out. And then our button as well, let's just give that an extra margin top. So make that 15. And opacity of our border, maybe let's use same shade as our backdrop. Let's see how that comes out. And we'll just make this maybe 10% opacity. There we go, much better. Okay, so now what we want to do is when we click this add item, we want to call a function to write or add a new item basically to our supabase table. So to do that, let's come under API. We should get the steps on how to do that. And select your tables or items, and then we'll go to insert rows. So this is what we need to create a new item. So let's first create a function. So it'll be the same way as we implemented get items. We'll first write out a function, and then we'll call that function to update our table basically. So here we'll call it add new item. It will also be an async function. We'll pass our text or new to-do item, right? And then we can just copy this. Cool. And then let's just add this to data in the same way that we have it there. So the column that we'll be updating, or we'll only be focusing on 2 columns in this case. The other columns that we set up will be auto-populated. So we have a description. So description will be set to the item that the user types in. And then the other column will be completed, which is a Boolean field. And by default, we'll set that to false. Okay. And then here, you can just return items. Cool. So then we'll create a new function. We'll call it save items, or save item. And then this is going to call add new item. So we'll also pass our item here. So we'll call add new item. And then we'll pass along our item. And then after adding that to our table, we'll then call get items. So in the same way that we've got here, so I can just copy this. So once our item has been saved, we get items, and then we set our updated items. Cool. And then in our component, we'll create a new property called save new item. And then this will basically call save item. Okay. And then back to our modal. So when we press this add item, first what we want to check for is if the user has actually filled in any item here. So let's first create our function. We'll call it add new item. right? And then here we're just going to check if text is actually not empty. So if text.length is equal to 0, then we don't do anything. Okay, so if text.length is equal to 0, we just return and not move on to the next line. If not, we'll call props dot save new item, and then we'll pass along our text, and then we'll also clear up our text as well, and then hide our modal. And that should be it. So this will be called on our touchable opacity here on press. Add new item. So let's see if that works. Then what we can do is also open up our database. Okay, so if I click add new item, nothing should be added. We can further maybe add prompts there to tell the user to actually fill in the form before continuing, but for now this is fine. So let's just check our database once more. Nothing should have been written to our table. So we still have the 4 items, but now if I type in something, let's say testing new, let's say adding new to do item, and then if I click add item, there we go, it says adding new item to do. Let's say it should have been added. So there it is, adding new to do item, that's fine. And then I think we adding an extra line, which shouldn't be the case. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is supposed to be one thing. Okay. Can just delete that. Okay, let's try that again. Testing, adding item to list. Add item. There we go, testing, adding item to list. And then by default, this the completed field should be false as well. So there you have it there. So that's it for now, guys. In the next video, we'll go over checking off our items and maybe just sorting this by ID. So see you in the next video. Cheers for now.